Yeah, Taoiseach, I'm sorry to ruin your merriment, but just over 2 weeks ago I got a letter from an older lady living down the country, a lady who had never written to a politician before, a lady who was desperately looking for help, and with her permission I'm raising her case here today because she represents thousands of other people who are suffering a similar torment, but more importantly because you have the ability to sort this issue out. Now, she told me that she was trying to locate her daughter, a daughter who had been born to her in Castlepollard Mother and Baby Home in 1966, a daughter whose adoption she never consented to. She had been sick after the birth, was in bed on St. Patrick's Day morning when the child was a couple of months old, and was told by the priest and the matron that the child had been adopted. She was told to get up and go to Mass. No paper signed, no permission given. Now, this woman eventually moved on with her life, had 4 other children, got married, and for the past 30 years she's been trying to find her daughter. She contacted the Sacred Heart nuns, Sister Sarto, the Order's search and trace coordinator. There were letters, phone calls, meetings, excuses. We didn't get your letter. We don't have the information. Your daughter's adopted family don't want to know you. They don't want anything to do with you. Her request became more urgent when she had cancer twice, and one of her other children had cancer twice, and she wanted her daughter to be aware of her medical history. Even that didn't help, and she was begging for assistance. Now, we contacted the Adoption Rights Alliance, who are a voluntary organisation of activists and campaigners, many of whom were born in mother and baby homes and were adopted themselves, and who we'd worked with on these cases before. Now, last Friday, we got the call back from Paul to tell us they had found her daughter. They had spoken to her daughter. Her daughter was absolutely delighted and looking forward to meeting her mother. 30 years searching ended in 10 days because of a random correspondence with a TD. I have to say, Taoiseach, while being absolutely glad for those people, I was boiling mad by this, because the Adoption Rights Alliance did not find that information by chance. This case proves positively that the information was always there, but individuals and organisations consciously and deliberately withheld it from those who had a right to know. And that is a crime. And it's landing on top of the other crime that not only was that child illegally adopted, but they also find out that the birth had been registered as a legal adoption, which it was not. Now, there is no reason why this should have happened and why this woman should have had to endure things. But unfortunately, there are thousands of others going through the same thing. Minister Fitzgerald confirmed to me in a question earlier this month that 25,000 files from the Sacred Heart Mother and Baby Homes were in the hands of the HSE in Glanmire. And what I'm asking you is, given the time importance of this, will you meet with the Adoption Rights Alliance, who proved their credibility and their credentials in this matter, to discuss the establishment of an emergency task force in order to enable the thousands of people who are out there searching for their basic human right to an identity to secure it?
Taoiseach. Well, I listened to the story that you've told, Deputy Daly, and I'm glad that it's worked out in this particular case. I think you said that the child was born in, was it 1966? That would mean that she's now 47. I'm not sure whether that woman was actively looking for her mother and the mother actually looking for her. Clearly, this is a good ending to a long-running saga where her mother was looking for her natural-born baby. I don't know whether the figures are 25,000 or how many of that, that number are actively looking for each other, mother or whatever, or children. What I will do is ask the Minister for Children to meet with the Alliance. I don't know whether a meeting like that has taken place already, to see if what you say is true in thousands of other cases, because clearly the situation has changed and that people are entitled to find their natural parents and vice versa. I think that might be a useful engagement. I would regret that it has taken a situation for you to raise it here on leaders' questions, but it is an important, sensitive, personal issue, and I'm glad that the involvement that you had has brought about this meeting and this acquaintance between mother and daughter. So perhaps I'll ask the Minister for Children to meet with you and discuss these and other cases, and meet with the Adoption Alliance to see whether there's an openness of a structure can be put there so that these things can happen where people want them to happen.
Margaret, supplementary question, Deputy Clare Daly.
Yeah, thanks, Count Crawley. You see, Taoiseach, while it is obviously a very happy ending in this case, the reason why the woman gave me permission to raise her case here is because sadly there are thousands of others where the ending isn't so happy, and people have spent a lifetime searching only to find out that maybe that parent had just recently died, and this simply isn't good enough. Now, in September 2011, the Minister told me that the heads of bill on the new adopting and tracing legislation were close to completion and would be progressed fairly speedily. In July of this year, she told me she hoped to bring the heads of bill as early as possible, but the legislative programme says we might get it in 2014. In September 2011, she told me that the Sacred Heart files had been transferred to Glanmire and a system was in place to manage and help people get their records. In September 2013, she told me that the 25,000 files had been transferred to Cork, that there was a very significant demand to access these files, and as a result, sadly, the HSE weren't in a position to respond, and that they were planning to reorganise their approach for dealing with the matter. Now, this isn't good enough. This knowledge has been in the government's hands for a long time now. These are crimes that have been committed against people for whom their identities have been withheld. What I asked you was not just a meeting. Some people who were illegally adopted did recently meet the Minister. What they want is action. They've proved that they can play a part in assisting to match people with their parents because of their own experience. Why not bring them to the heart of this matter, get them involved in sorting out what is demonstrably a crisis in people being able to access their files? So I'm asking you again, would you bring them on board to deliver a solution to this torment that many women and their children have endured for decades?
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach, final.
The bill that you referred to, the Adoption Tracing and Information Bill, there are 30 heads in that bill. It's expected in early 2014. Now, if you say there are 25,000 files and it's been confirmed here by the Minister that they've been sent down to Glanmire in Cork, I assume obviously they're stored and categorised. So if people are entitled and eligible to access those files where that's appropriate, then it's obviously put a structure in place where that can happen. You mentioned that there's a very healthy demand from people to access the files. I assume that's demand from people who want to access them for the purpose of finding or tracing their children or parents, as the case might be. If that's the situation, that the files are now in Cork, but they appear to be inaccessible, well then obviously that's a matter of either structure or personnel or access. So let's look at that and see if we can improve the situation.